Live stream. Should we go ahead, Chris? Or wait?
Hang on. Up
There's
there he
Chaz
is.
right now.
Okay.
Give him just a minute.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Mayor.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, I will start the recording.
Hi, Mike. Nice to meet you in person.
Hi,
Kind of.
Charles. Nice to meet you. Good to see you.
Okay, well, as former chair, till we get to this chair, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order for February 23rd, 2022, Finance Administration Committee. Present is Mayor Chaz Jones, City Councilor Ruth Causey, Councilor David Lowe, me, City Manager Chris Workman, and our Director of Finance Administration, Mike Brzezinski. Get your name?
Yeah.
Good, great. And then Ruth Post, City Recorder, is also here. And the first point of business is not the roll call, just did that. Approval of the minutes for October 21st, 2021, last time we met.
I'll move to approve those minutes.
Okay, and I'll second it. And all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Well, thank you. Now we need to, since we have a different body, Councilor Causey joined us rather than Councilor Lehman for this this year, remainder of the calendar year. So we need to elect a chair and a vice chair. We haven't really done a vice chair before. Is that something new, Chris? Or is that?
Yeah, it's up to the committee to decide how you want to do that, but sometimes having a vice chair just ends any concerns in the future. If the chair is not able to be there, the committee could still meet. So
Okay.
you do it now, it's in place.
Okay. All right. Well, I would like to submit my name as chair again.
I'll second. So we have a, do we need a second that? Is that how we're doing this? Or we just submit names and then vote on it?
Yeah, there's really no script. So
Okay.
whatever the group is comfortable with. So if David Lowe says he'd like to do it, and Ruth and Chaz, you both agree, and we get thumbs up, then we can record that in the minutes that way. If you want to do a motion, that's fine too.
That's fine. And then Ruth, would you be interested in serving as vice chair? Because
I would be happy to.
I endorse that.
I think that those sound great. I approve both suggestions.
And if either of us aren't here, you're it, Chaz. There's no meeting, so there you go. Okay, so I guess a motion or consensus, however we want to do it. Myself, chair, Ruth Causey, vice chair, and everybody's in favor of that, so we're moving on. Okay, so we have a few things on the agenda. We have the 2022-2023 utility rates. This is for the upcoming budget year. We have some information from our finance director, administration director. So I'd like to run us through that, please.
Sure. What I've done is like, okay, the backgrounds, you guys have been doing this annually. It's a good practice. We did that in Newport and Albany. That way you keep up with your expenses and it helps you prepare for your next budget. And then, once we get approval from from the committee, and then we talk to the council, we'll be ready to project our next year's revenues. So that helps us with capital projects and putting money aside. So, and one thing I've noticed that we haven't done in a while, and I did it recently in Newport, is a utility rate study. But, right now you're not ready for it because you've got that big treatment plan and it's in the design stage or it's getting ready to go to bed. So once we get that, then we should start, put a budget together for a rate study. So we've got something to fall back on. So council can do that, and so can the committee. So, what I did is went through all the history of what's going on around here. And, I looked at last year's data, looked at Jones data, and, projected out basically a 2% increase based on the way I look at it. To figure out your revenue, you need to figure out your expenditures first. So, the first thing I did was figure out what the David, it's like comes back to your memo that memo that I got it. I needed to send it out. What's the desired expenditures? Well, the desired revenues first is you got to find the expenditures. And so what I did is determine what Kevin's going to need for his water treatment plant, or just the water operations next year. And it's pretty much in line with this year, but we're going to have inflationary costs in the materials and services. So I've got those numbers worked out. I'll send those out after the meeting. I'm sorry, I've been in meetings since 11 o'clock this morning. A 2% increase would be an increase of $13.25 versus $13 this year. And that'll keep everything pretty much stable except for the infrastructure transfer. You did a $1.1 million transfer last year. The only way you're going to be able to do a 1.1 is to increase it to probably $13.65. That's also something else, David, that I just did that this morning for you. I just haven't had a chance to get it out to the committee. In order to keep the 1.1, we'd have to do a $13.65 increase with a unit charge of probably $4.70. But those numbers aren't reflected in the report I gave you this morning, or that's attached to this report. The sewer revenue, I figure there's going to be same thing. I figured out what the expenditures were, and to keep everything even and stay close to inflation, 2% for sewer. Then the street utility fee, that one, and the storm drain fee, those were both recently increased. And I talked to Kevin, and Kevin is okay with the way those two are functioning this time. So he doesn't think one, except for maybe an inflationary increase for the rates. So basically, coming down to, with the exception of water, the rest of them would be an inflationary increase, 2% to 3%, whatever it's going to take, probably 3% to be safe, to keep everything in line with the current year. But there's one thing. Chris and I have been talking about this quite a bit the last. I've been here a week, so we've talked about this 3 or 4 times already. We've got a lot of uncertainty built in. Not built in. It's in the economy right now. And you got, we're having wage inflation. We've got people that don't want to work. You can't hire people. And that is going over into our, that's going to start showing up in the wastewater, the water. I keep saying wastewater. We just did a wastewater project. So a big one. So I'm thinking wastewater, but your big project right now is the water treatment plant. And we don't know what's going to happen. Are all the stuff that we're facing over in the materials world going to affect that? We don't know. A lot of uncertainty. So, is our CPI, the 2%, 3% correct? I don't know at the moment. Now we're 6.5 months. The data I've seen 6.5 months into the system for here now. I've got to dig a little bit more deeper. I mean, right now I'm thinking 2 to 3% increase for everything but water. Water is probably going to take about a 5% increase. Just on the dollar amount. It's going to be just nominal 45 cents, I believe. 65 cents for water and 20 cents for the rate, the variable rate. And then everybody else would be pretty much on 2 to 3% inflationary. So I don't know, you have any quick questions on what I've got presented?
Well, yeah, I would like to see what you were referring to that you put together that we're going to get afterwards.
Yeah, I apologize, David.
Okay, so in your write-up for water and sewer, you allude to annual payments on a construction loan, but we don't have that. So is that a factor? We've got the 12 million coming in for the water treatment plant.
Well, that was just based on not knowing anything at the moment, just learning. I put this together probably, I think I did it probably the day before thing. So I really don't know everything at the moment. So if I said something about a loan, I'm not sure how that $12 million, if that had to be paid back or anything. I'm hearing,
No.
so that's it's probably just misinformation that I'm not understanding something, David. So that's kind
Well,
of
sorry to interrupt.
what.
Well, I think to me, maybe fellow councilors, Mayor, that is pretty important, very important to us. We've gone through, I don't know if you've looked through some of the minutes, but our citizens are very concerned about water rates. And we actually, when we got this $12 million loan, there was quite a bit of discussion, and we brought back to council a reduction in our water rates, because initially we had projected, yes, we would have to have a servicing of the debt to fill this void. What was it, 16 million was the total project. We had 4 million saved, so 12 million to fill, and we have that. So it was my understanding that we're pretty well set that way. There is no debt to repay. This is a grant. There's no repayment. We wanted to give back to our ratepayers, our citizens, the big increases we had put into place because of that anticipated loan that we no longer had. So we did reduce our rates. By the time we were able to do it, it was last December. So we reduced it down to what you see now, $13 base for 55 unit. I don't think it's going to. Personally, I'm not in favor of raising rates just about 3 months, or proposing to raise rates about 3 months after we just lowered them. And I'm not really hearing, other than a 2% inflationary cost, that I could vote, I could support that. So Chris, city manager.
Yeah, I appreciate the review on this. And I'm just looking at our capital improvement plan, and Mike, I may have given you some bad information to start from, but looking at this, the expected revenue to come in for next year, the 22-23 fiscal year, it looks like we were targeting for $800,000 to be able to transfer, as opposed to the 1.1 that you were looking at that we did previously. It looked like, this fiscal year, we're looking at 1.1, but next year we're projecting out to only need to bring in the 800,000. So staying where we're at, would cover that, I think, without the increase. Because you've got an inflationary increase would cover about $900,000. So even without the inflationary increase, we're still going to cover that 800,000 we need to really transfer over. Now, obviously, the more we transfer over, the more we have for future projects. But I think what Councillor Lowe is saying is we want to be real cognizant of the fact that we've just done a rate adjustment downward, and then to come right back and go upward, may not be real popular with residents. And I don't know that it's necessary this year. I do like your recommendation, Mike, that once the treatment plant is constructed and we have an idea what the total construction cost ended up being, I really like your recommendation to look at going out and doing a full rate study at that time, because we'll know then, exactly where we end up with our cost, how much of our contingency we had to use, how much money we were able to pull over, and that's still going to be there in our fund balances so that we can pull that money forward. I think we'll have a little bit better idea as well of, which again, Mike's coming into this a little bit behind, just because we're just a little bit behind on having in the budgeting process. One thing that we didn't look at real recently is the spread of how much potential SDC money, water SDC money we might be able to put towards this project that wouldn't have to be water fund money that we have. Any SDC money that we can use for this project, because it is going to be built to additional capacity than just the current need, which would allow us to use some SDC funds. That's going to reduce the impact on the street fund as well, right? So,
Yeah.
I think to Councillor Lowe's point, if we're set on not doing a water rate increase this year, my opinion is we'd be in good shape to do that, to not have to do the water rate increase. But I would encourage that once we get the water treatment plant done, we do that rate study, look at more thoroughly. In the email that Councillor Lowe had sent, talked about looking at different rate structures. At what point do you charge maybe a higher rate for excessive use of water and different things. I think those are all things that'd be great to have a consultant come in and really talk through those items with us. Look at our average household, look at our average water usage, and give us some different options we could consider. But this year, maybe it is just kind of hunker down. We just did a rate change in January. Let's ride that out and see where we're at this time next year, and come back and do a full evaluation. But otherwise, I think in general, the policy is good. You want those incremental increases every year. This year might just be a little bit of exception, just with the amount of uncertainty that we've got, if that makes sense.
Thoughts from fellow councilors, Mayor?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that we just changed rates that for the water, that it makes sense to keep them the same. I'm in support of doing an inflationary increase for the others, 2 rates, and moving forward. Those seem like great ideas to me, and relatively minimal impact as well.
Okay. Councilor Cosby?
Yes, I believe, I certainly agree with everything that's been said regarding the water rates. I believe we just did increase the street utility fee. Is that correct? I'm wondering if we can simply leave all the rates at their current levels, or if that would be inadvisable given inflationary pressures.
Well, that's David.
Yes, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's, with the uncertainty, and not really knowing everything about the funds. I mean, we could take, hunker down and see what happens. I mean, Kevin and everybody seems pretty good about keeping their costs down. So, I'm either whatever the council or the committee would like to do. I'm open for whatever direction you'd like to go. I'm just, I always worry about the inflationary impact on our materials and services, because they've already cut them down as far as they can cut them down. And when you start adding inflationary costs to it, it gets a little bit harder each time. Storm drain, I don't know how regulated they are, pushing, or the state comes, or the Fed comes in on them. But, coming from Newport, they were all over us because we had the bay and we had the ocean. They didn't like any discharge. So we had to really be careful with our storm drains and our wastewater. So, here you've got the Marys River. That's the closest you've got of water to worry about. But, that one's pretty good. Kevin seemed pretty good about it. He's just worried about the inflationary pressures. So that's why I brought it up. So whatever direction y'all like to go, I'm good with that.
I see Chris has a comment, but I would advocate leaving all the rates alone, since both the street utility and the storm drain were increased in July. But I'll defer to Chris.
Yeah, and these increases we're talking about wouldn't be effective till July of this year as well, right? So they would be a full year out. We're having the discussion now so we can build it into the budget, and the effective date would be July of this next year. It is kind of a policy decision, which is why we're coming to you with it. The incremental rates for inflation make a lot of sense, so that you've got smaller rates. Traditionally, we've held back on doing that. And then we've, like we saw in the street fund, we went from $4 to $8, which is a substantial increase. In the past, we went on the storm drain fee even from $2 to $3. That's a 50% increase. So there is some benefit in doing incremental increases each year as opposed to holding the line for 2 or 3 or 4 years. And then you get a little bit in arrears and then you got to do them in dollar increments. So, but it's a policy decision. Nobody ever likes to raise utility rates. I totally understand that. But it just means that the next rate increase will just have to be that much higher. And if you delay again, it'll have to be that much higher. And you kind of see where I'm headed with that. So, prudence, I think, is to do the small incremental rate increases when you can do them. This year, I will just remind you, the general fund fee is coming off of utilities. So water rates just came down. The general fund fee is going to come down. And, I would support Mike's recommendation for just an incremental increase in the other rates other than water, just to be able to keep up with that inflation and not have to do large increases in the future. But it is a policy decision. If we want to hold off and hold them where they are, I can support that decision as well.
Well,
Oops.
Councilor Causey?
Go ahead, David.
Well, just in terms of inflationary influence, I mean, it's hitting our citizens also. So there's going to be, people are paying more across the board for a lot of things. The dollar store went up from $1 to $1.25 for all the items, so 25% increase. So, I guess it depends how you look at it, but I just don't feel comfortable. We talk about 2% inflation and possibly 5% in one of the scenarios, but I would want to have more specific figures and something really to help support that rather than just sort of an overview. I just think that there are a lot of things that have been going on in the city recently, and we know there's federal money coming, possibly state money through the county. They're just different things that are sort of up in the air that might be to the good, as well as things that might be to the bad. Personally, I think waiting for a year, budget year, makes sense. I don't think we would be looking at huge increases, but I'm not a fortune teller either. Oh, anyway, Councilor Causey.
Well, I appreciate the clarification with respect to the timing. If we're going to apply an inflationary increase to some rates, it would seem like it should be applied to all rates. But I understand the funding of the water situation, but that doesn't really affect the ongoing maintenance work that has to be done, operations expenses. So I think that, inflation has been well publicized in the press, and certainly people are feeling it. And the city is not going to be immune to it. I think it comes down to whether we can weather a year without an inflationary increase or whether we should be more cautious and add an inflationary increase.
How much would the proposed increases be, Mike? When you figure 2%, what
Let me,
say for sewer?
And we're only talking about on the base fee, correct? Not on the unit charge?
not on the, right, that's true. On the base, no, the base and the variable. The variable, I didn't bring that into the picture. All I did was the base rate, and that was the inflationary one, 2%. That was 13.25, $13.25.
So what's the actual increase?
Very, very minimal.
26 cents?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, 26 cents. Yes. But I rounded down just to keep it. And then,
I'm sorry, is that's the water rate though? I thought we were talking about sewer. Are we talking
No.
about sewer?
not talking about sewer.
Okay, talking about the water.
Yeah, we're just talking water. Sewer's just inflationary if we wanted to do it.
Right.
And then for the other one to cover the 1.1, that would be $13.65.
So what's the
No, I
actual,
don't,
increase?
I don't think that's appropriate.
What's the
No,
actual increase?
That'd be 5
Six-
cents. Oh, 65 cents.
but we don't have that 1.1 as Chris explained. We're
Right.
looking at 800.
I
Yeah.
need to go. I probably should fix that. Let me see what that does. Oh, boy.
I may be wrong, but I was thinking that on terms of the water, I was hearing the consensus was sort of not increasing this time. And we
Yeah.
were moving on to talking about the sewer, that inflationary one. And
With the reduction in the transfer, it's the fund should weather the next year with no issues.
okay.
Okay.
So on the sewer rate, the current base rate for sewer is 25.30 for
Mhm.
residential.
Okay.
So Mike, were you saying a 2% increase or a 3%? Were you
2% on that one, and I didn't
Oh,
have
eight.
the base rates on handy on that one at the time. Let me see.
So 2% increase to 25.30 is 50 cents.
50 cents, yeah.
Yep.
Yep. So that's palatable, I think, for that base rate. Well,
Yeah,
base-
50 cents. Yes. Yep.
okay. And utility fees fine. So the other one was,
The storm drain was,
Storm drains at $3.
yeah, $3 and
so we're not raising that.
no.
So I think the only one other than the water then was the sewer revenue with the 2%.
Yep.
And I could support that.
Okay.
So I'd like to propose then, unless there's more discussion, that we make a recommendation to the budget committee. Is that who we're recommending it to, or the council?
To the council.
To the council, okay. So I'd like to make a recommendation that we keep the water rates as they are now with no increase, that we recommend a 2% inflationary rate for the base for the sewer, and that we keep the straight utility fee, storm drain fee the same as they are now.
Second,
Second, okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that we're unanimous in that. Okay, thank you. Next one is general fund fee. Chris, there wasn't, at least I didn't see anything in my packet specifically, but you kind of alluded to it, so.
Yeah, it's just the email correspondence between the city attorney and the city recorder on how this goes away. So it was, when it was approved, there was a sunset clause included in the approval that it would sunset after 5 years. So that will sunset at the end of this fiscal year, June of 2022.
Okay.
We can go in and formally remove it anytime after then. It has been codified, so it's in the code, but essentially it's null and void once that sunset date hits, unless the council takes any further action to renew it or anything like that. But inaction will essentially just make it null and void. At some point in the future, when they're doing some housekeeping, we can go in and remove that section, but it's not something pressing. So no decision needs to be made at this point. Just reminders, we're talking utility rates and utility payments that general fund fee will sunset this year. So we could do a full write-up on the benefits that it's brought, the stability that it's added. And it's really been a huge help in getting our funds where they're at today, which again is in a much better spot as far as our budget carryover each year. is just tremendous compared to what we had it again just 5 years ago. So good foresight by the council at the time and good continued foresight by the council since that point in renewing and updating and being able to lower that this last year, these last couple of years to just what we needed, I think shows really good faith on behalf of the city council that we're really not trying to pull more money out of our residents and what's really necessary to provide the services that we provide as a local government. So good experience to go through and good to see it sunset. As a resident of Philomath, I'm happy to see that come off my utility bill.
Mhm. Chris, I like your idea about having some sort of a write-up, some sort of publicity, good publicity about that, because there was a tough issue when we first put that into place, and I echo what you say. We stuck to it, and the city really is in a better spot, and we fulfilled our promise of having this come off, and we even reduced it a little faster at one point than we had anticipated, which was good. So this is a good case of where we didn't know what was going to happen necessarily, but we knew the projections were not looking good. We needed to take action. We took it. And as you say, we're in a much better spot. So yeah, it would be good to make that widely known, I think.
Yeah, I'll make a note for the newsletter and we may even put a press release out, but I think we'll combine it with the utility rate update. That's all seems kind of included and do a nice write-up. So we can work on that and probably still looking towards the end of June, July, that maybe that June newsletter would be an appropriate time to toot our horn a little bit.
Okay, sounds good. Great. Mr. Mayor?
The question, Chris or Mike, on the staff update on the utility fees, if possible, if you could put the old fee and the new fee just in the actual change rather than using just the percentages. I think that every year the council is always looking for the actual change.
Okay.
And that usually isn't in the memo. So I think that would be appreciated.
Got it.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks. And then also as a follow-up, Mike, you will be sending out those other, that other analysis you mentioned, right?
Yes, I
I'll get
will.
it. Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks. Okay, so very good. Good news on that one. Now we have ARPA funds. And you've given us some information. Chris, you want to step us through this too?
You're muted.
That's good because I was just talking to myself anyway. Hopefully we had a chance to go through the memo. Essentially, the short of it is for smaller municipalities that aren't getting more than $5 million, there's kind of a standard, well, I forget the exact terminology. I've been doing my personal income taxes, so I have tax jargon in my brain. But essentially, there's a kind of minimum standard. As long as it's under the $5 million, the city can apply for that as essentially lost revenue or replacement of lost revenue. And under that replacement of lost revenue, there's not a lot of documentation that we need to provide. It's just replacement of lost revenue. It'll be up to the full amount that we would be given, the 1.2 or 1.25 million. And it basically frees the city up to be able to use those funds in whatever capacity we feel necessary, as long as it's a typical city service or typical service that we would do. So that would include administration, that would include parks, facilities, infrastructure, any number of things, but it does free the city up from having to kind of follow that standard list of, the 4 or 5 specific things that you could use the ARPA funds for. If we categorize it as replacement of lost revenue, it frees those funds up a little bit. Now, as I say in the memo, the spirit of these funds is to help the cities with those lost revenues, with infrastructure expenses, to support the social services and all of the other things that are listed. And so I've provided kind of a breakdown of those, just kind of doing the analysis. If we were either more than 5 million, or if it was, if we were in a scenario where we had to follow the ARPA spending guidelines, the ARPA funding spending guidelines, that's what the second page of the memo kind of looked at, is what would that break down? What would those recommendations be from a staff level? And so for like supporting public health expenditure, that's the first thing that gets listed. I listed that out. That includes not only public health expenditure that specifically allows for things you've done for remote meetings. So our Zoom meetings, our hybrid meetings that we're doing, are all of that. There's definitely some expenses that the city has incurred and some future expenses the city could incur that would help support our continuation of live streaming our videos, having council chambers be more receptive to, a layout that would allow for it to project better for online videos. We've got some audio and video upgrades that need to be done. We've kind of done some temporary measures, but really to improve our overall sound system, install some cameras and rearrange the layout of the current dais and how it's set up with that wide angle. It just doesn't translate well to online meetings. And so adjusting that, I kind of estimated back of the napkin, I think for $30,000, we could do all of those improvements and have a much better kind of online presence for our meetings and ability to do online hybrid meetings. I don't think this is something going away. I'm excited for the council to be able to meet in person again. But I think that the precedence has been set for the public to engage with the council and the city by way of online meetings. And so having the technology to allow for that to happen with better sound, better video, better layout, I think is important going forward. And it looks like Ruth's got a question or a
I
comment.
do. Thank you. Couple of questions. When the mask mandate is withdrawn, do you expect to resume in-person meetings?
That's going to be my strong recommendation. Yes, but that's a conversation for the council to have. I've talked with the mayor about that briefly. I think we need to talk about that with the council at the March meetings. But yes, that'll be my strong recommendation. I think as nice and convenient as it is at times to be able to go online when you need to, if you're out of town or whatever, we've lost some synergy. I think we've had a harder time. Those interpersonal communications just get lost over the internet. And so there's a lot of studies, there's a lot of research, there's a lot that's been written and talked about with virtual meetings and how it helps and how it hinders organizations and committees and councils. And so I'm happy to bring that data forward and bring some of those resources forward and have the conversation with the council, but that will be my recommendation, yes.
Okay, you won't get any argument from me. My second question is the $30,000 that could be invested in upgrades for the audio visual. Are those upgrades that could be preserved when the city hall is renovated, which I believe is scheduled for 3 years out, or would that be a lost investment?
No, my idea at this point would be this would be an initial investment, maybe a phase one of that future redesign, but anything that we do would not be lost. So the audio system is an upgrade that will stay no matter what we do. The cameras will be mountable, those can be moved, we can use those as well. But really the third part in this is rearranging the dais and the way it's set up. Moving the dais is going to be a cost in of itself. It'll also probably trigger replacement of the carpet in that room. And there's some other things built into that, where that future phase of remodeling City Hall hopefully won't have to touch the council chambers. This will be the council chambers upgrade that we've been waiting for.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good. And I think least I'm in favor of that upgrade. I think it would also really help with the DEI efforts that we want to include, having a better system that really works, that people can look at or can experience, use, would be very helpful. So I don't know, do you want us to offer our thoughts piecemeal, or do you want to have a package brought to you, or what are you looking for?
That's good feedback for that. Maybe we'll keep going forward and then we can kind of regroup once we've been through everything.
Okay. Does anybody disagree with me on that, on the 30,000 effort for City Hall?
I think that I do think that the public may ask why we needed to rearrange the dais into a different shape and why we need to reconstruct the dais. And I do think that it'd be good just to give the city manager the opportunity just to mention why that's relevant and important.
Yep, good point.
I just wanted to jump in really quickly and also make the point that there, and I cannot remember the new legislation number that passed at the last legislative session, but is now effective, requires the city to provide the opportunity for electronic testimony by the public. And so that's something we have to do in some form or another, whether it's telephone or online testimony.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Thank you, Ruth.
I think the expectation from the community is that they're going to be able to hop onto a video platform like Zoom or something similar, and that the council is going to be able to see them. They're going to be able to see the council. I just think that's the expectation going forward. And so, you know, we kind of need to step up our game a little bit on what we've been doing. Again, what we do now works, and I commend Ruth and Chelsea for getting us as far as we have. But there's definitely some pieces that we need to purchase in order to upgrade further from what we're doing right now. And I do think it's important. And it, you know, for a lot of people, that is their engagement with the city. That's what they know the city as. And so we want it to look good. We want it to function well. And frankly, we want to do it where we don't have to hire an IT staff to come in and run everything. And so, you know, the fact that you've got a city recorder and a city manager and assistant that are able to run these meetings and be efficient and not have to have an IT person there monitoring everything, checking all the mics and all that is really a benefit that the city has right now. But I think it's because we've kept it pretty simple, right? We've been able to implement tools that we can utilize from a laptop computer. So.
And to the mayor's point, Chris, about the dais, why that might make reconstructing that, or why that would be beneficial.
Yeah, so when I come up with an actual layout or diagram, I'd like to bring it to the council and talk about and go some options there. And at that time, I think it'd be good to talk about those. The biggest one right now is its screen angle. You know, in order to get cameras that can capture everybody sitting the way they're currently sitting, you end up with people in the background and people in the foreground, or you end up with cameras that are moving all over the place, which is creating other problems. So in order to kind of group everybody instead of in a line, to be able to group people like in a U shape or something where you're more, feels more like you're around a table or at least looking at each other. It's good for organization reasons and meeting efficiency, but it also is a lot easier for cameras to capture everybody in a single or multiple shot, you know, 2 shots versus multiple shots. So there's multiple benefits, and I'll kind of, once I know that there's going to be some money, the council's comfortable putting money towards that, I'll put a little bit more energy into vetting that out some more.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
The next item we kind of looked at was addressing negative economic impacts caused by public health emergency. This is where I want to, I guess, bring up the memo that went out that I shared with you from Benton County. They've actually set aside some of their money. Their pot of money is quite larger than ours. And they've set up a program where the city can actually apply for funds to do basically all of the things that the ARPA funds allow you to do. But with that is money for social services, small businesses assistance, nonprofit assistance, any number of things. And so, I included in my memo a number of different funding mechanisms out there to support small businesses. The city has supported small businesses in the past with our first round of funds that we received. We did a small business and a nonprofit grant program that were very successful and very much appreciated by the community. So there's been effort out there. I guess my caution would be, I would hate for the city, with the small amount of money compared to the trillions of dollars that are in this package deal, and then cities were given this much. I would hate for the city to then turn around and use that money and then just give it out to the organizations that are already given these other revenue streams to access ARPA funds through their own accord. So as a small business, I don't need to apply to the city of Philomath for ARPA funds. There's 4 or 5 programs that the government has set up where I can go directly and get those funds and get ARPA relief or COVID relief through the ARPA programs that I don't have to go to the city for. And then the city can use those funds for city purposes. And so I try to be pretty clear in the memo that these are funds coming to the city and the municipalities, and the intent is for the city to use these to benefit the city, as in city residents, not necessarily businesses that are in the city or nonprofits that are in the city or other agencies that happen to be within our city. I wouldn't expect that we would give a check to the school district to support them. That's not the intent, right? The city's not being used as the clearinghouse, if you will, to distribute these funds out to every organization in the city. That's not the purpose of these funds. That was kind of the purpose of the original money that we got, right? It was, hey, let's give a bunch of money to the cities and they can distribute it out to everybody. With this funding, that's not the case, right? We're not the clearinghouse. These are monies designated to the city. So I just want to caution the committee, and I'll caution the council to not feel like we got to give this money all away to other organizations and other businesses, if that makes sense. David?
Yeah, just a point of clarification. So this money is available from the county. The only applicants can be municipalities, cities. I mean, for instance, PYC couldn't appeal to the county for this money, right? Or could they?
You know what? I think they might be able to. I read through the announcement twice, and I've not been able to see who it's applicable to, who's able to apply or eligible to apply. I didn't go to the step of actually going in to look to apply for it, to read if there's criteria there or not. But I know that the cities can. In fact, we've been encouraged. We had a meeting just yesterday with the county commissioners, and they notified all of the city managers in that meeting that these funds are available and that they're looking for applications to be coming in. So we've been invited. I don't know that it precludes others from applying directly, but they're definitely wanting these monies to go to cities to help with this.
If I could, just where I was coming from was, if social service agencies, others get wind that this is here and they come to the city and they start lobbying for us to provide them money, if they're able to go directly to Benton County, I think that would be really helpful. Yeah, I appreciate that clarification. Mayor?
And I'll just say that, if the city can apply for those funds and simply look at what we provided to social service agencies last year, we can, rather than just saying supporting social service agencies, we could specifically say we want to support the specific services offered by ABC House. We could support the specific services offered by PYAC and by Maxtivity and by these others. And so we don't have to say just generally, but we could be more specific because we know the types of organizations that we've given to in the past.
Councilor Kazi?
Yes, I opened the application here and it reads that the Benton County Financial Services Department is seeking applications from community organizations, nonprofits, and governmental organizations
Mm,
to help support the pandemic response needs and rebuild a stronger, more equitable economy. So that sounds pretty broad to me.
mhm.
Yeah,
So I would imagine, I guess it would be nice to be able to replicate what we did last year and have someone else pay for that. But I don't know how we would avoid duplication of other entities that might apply.
Yeah. Personally, I'm in favor of not using whatever portion we get for that, when those other agencies have their ability in their own to make their case for why they should get the money.
yeah, I think the only exception to that would be like small businesses that wouldn't be able to apply. So, if the city wanted to do a targeted approach for small businesses and we made that as part of our application to the county for some of these funds, money specific for small businesses, I wouldn't be opposed to that. I don't know that I would recommend using the city's ARPA funds for small businesses, but if the county has earmarked this, and for them, I think it's a fair portion of their total ARPA funds that they're receiving.
Mhm.
If they've already earmarked a percentage of those to go for these services, I don't have any problem then using it for those services. But, the city, as we go through the rest of the memo, we've got plenty of other expenses that we can utilize the money for. So how does the committee feel about and again, it'd be a little bit of work, but how would the committee feel about applying for some of this money from Benton County in order to do a repeat of our small business assistance grant that we set up, knowing that they're not eligible to apply directly to Benton County?
I think,
Sounds like it'd be a great idea.
seems in line with our strategic plan and supporting economic development. Councilor Kazi?
I would agree. I don't know if this is the appropriate time to bring it up, but I just had some questions about the email that was sent to us regarding activity. And I'm wondering, I don't know if the rest of you have more information about this. But I was curious as to the fact that it was sent by the former executive director. And I know that activity just recently received a $75,000 grant. And I guess it raises a lot of questions in my mind about their business model and long-term viability. But I don't know if any of this occurred to any of you.
We discussed them quite a bit prior. Mayor, did you want to? Yeah.
Oh, I can say that, I think it's a relatively new nonprofit, relatively new, and they're still getting their legs under them. Lori Paul was the original person who developed the concept and was the founding or executive director for it. She's been trying to transition out, and so they recently hired someone else, but Lori still has a very personal stake in the organization. So I think that she's reaching out on behalf. I suspect that there's a little confusion on their part about the funding process. For some reason, it seems like in that email that there may be under this, there was some suspicion that they may not be eligible to apply for funding from us in the future. I know they reached out personally to me about 2 weeks ago, and I replied suggesting that they apply to the program when we put out the RFP or the announcement. But it's, this is what we got instead. So I think that there was just some miscommunication potentially. Alternatively, I also interpreted it that maybe they needed money sooner than later. That's what it seemed like to me, but I don't really know exactly.
Yeah. I also recall that we talked about Nextivity when we were making additional money available from COVID-related funds. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but there was a question at that time if they were a 501c3, which is what our social service policy requires in order to get that money. Chris?
Yeah, I think when they first started, they weren't, but I think they morphed into that. And they have acquired that 501c3 status at this time. So they're a nonprofit. They've applied for our social service funding
Right.
in the past, and they were granted that last year. We were able to get them some money. We gave them some of the original COVID money that came in. We gave it to them at that time as well. So the city's been supportive. I think maybe what's happened is the mayor's alluded to a little bit. I think they're looking at like city of Corvallis, where they've said, we're going to, again, like Benton County's done, we're going to set up a percentage of these funds and we're going to give them to social service organizations. And now everybody come and lobby us and, fill our inboxes full of nice emails and things to do to advocate for your cause. And I think they're maybe being a little preemptive of saying the city of Floma should also do what Corvallis is doing and Benton County is doing and make some of these funds available to nonprofits. What I've heard today from you and what I would recommend is that we point them towards the Benton County funds that they're eligible to apply for and have them apply directly, and that the city really just focus in on those that can't apply for those funds directly, which would be our small businesses that, many of which are doing well, many of which are still hurting and could still use some additional financial assistance coming out of the pandemic. So but outside of the small businesses, I don't know that I would support spending a lot of staff time and city effort, on something that they can apply for themselves.
What about the Chamber of Commerce, Chris? Is that?
Yeah,
Has
the
it come up
chamber's another
before?
one that they're not a 501c3. There's a few organizations like that. Maybe in the application, if there was desire, we could say small businesses and, organizations like the Chamber of Commerce that support small businesses, or, so we can include them with some funding as well. It's a good idea.
Okay.
I So on that one, unless there's any other kind of social services that jump out at you, and I'm really limiting that. Ruth, do you still have Councilor Kazi, do you still have that application up?
I do.
Does it have there I think there was a short list of kind of bullet points of things that the funds could be used for.
Yes. The first bullet is support public health expenditures by funding COVID-19 mitigation efforts, medical expenses, behavioral health care, and certain public health and safety staff. The second bullet, address negative economic impacts caused by the public health emergency, including economic harm to workers, households, small businesses, impacted industries, and the public sector. Replace lost public sector revenue using this funding to provide government services to the extent of the reduction in revenue experienced due to the pandemic. Provide premium pay for essential workers, and invest in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure, making necessary investments to improve access to clean drinking water, support vital wastewater and stormwater infrastructure, and to expand access to the broadband internet. So it sounds like the ARPA limitations.
Yeah, they just kind of copied through on the kind of the abbreviated one that they bullet point out. I'm looking at the email specifically from Sarah Hartstein of Benton County, and she kind of lists them out shorter, just facilitating access to health and social services. Again, it's not a service the city typically does, but I think for nonprofits and other entities that may be more applicable for kind of in their wheelhouse what they do. Addressing housing insecurity, lack of affordable housing, and homelessness. So again, if there was something we could stand up fairly quickly to address housing insecurity, lack of affordable housing, homelessness, I'm thinking a a rental assistance program of some sort, maybe down payment assistance program of some sort. Those are just some ideas. Mitigating the impacts of the pandemic to education and healthy childhood environments. I've heard of cities using these ARPA funds for things like playground equipment and whatnot. I think that's a little bit of a stretch for what the funds are intended for, but you could definitely make the connection for, healthy childhood environments. Maybe we could use these funds to build a skate park, just throwing that out there, Then the last two, supporting recovery of small businesses, nonprofits, or specifically impacted industries. And then lastly, providing assistance to households that have endured negative economic impacts from the pandemic. So, utility assistance programs, that type of thing. So, there is a wide range. I know I kind of focused in on the small business portion of this, but did any of those others I talked about resonate with any of you that you think that that's something the city could look at? Again, specific to Benton County funds that the city would apply for to go towards these services, not necessarily the city's funds going towards these services.
Well, I'm a little, it was sort of kind of moved on from the ARPA funds the city's going to get directly into what Benton County could do. I think there can be some crossover. I know there was, I had actually flagged the skate park for the Benton County funds. To me, that's more fitting from that source. I feel personally that we've got some critical infrastructure and critical needs, and the 52 water sewer pipes are been around for a long time, and that in my mind would be a priority for the city part of the money.
So just for the county part of the money then, so you said skate park maybe?
Well, yeah, I know Councilor Kazi submitted a good proposal that looks like 325,000 or so is the skate park.
Right.
But I would support that in terms of the county funds. And I think, like you said, making a case for, well, childhood development, just health in general, exercise, movement, there's the social interaction. There are a lot of good benefits from having a community skate park, and however it's envisioned. I don't know all of the, but I think it's envisioned rather broadly and really very well.
That's a good point.
And I'll just add that Chris and I, we've talked offline, not as part of council, but about opportunities for supporting affordable housing.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like that would be really well aligned with the opportunities presented by Benton County funding as well, whether it be partnerships with Benton Habitat for Humanity or other builders. But I also think that, the idea of a down payment assistance would be great. I especially like the idea of a revolving loan type situation where we have something that offers assistance but gets paid back over time, or something that we can have a continuing program rather than just a one-time benefit to 10 households, rather than something that would help a number of households over time. So I don't know that all fits within our timeline, but just thought I'd throw that out there. I also, and then since we have mixed these two conversations, I'll just, my thoughts are pretty well in line with Councilor Lowe's about the use of the funds for the critical infrastructure. I have a couple of questions about that, especially particularly, would this get rid of all of our 1952 era pipe that we know of?
No.
Right, and then my other question.
I think that's about $6 million worth, if I recall correctly.
And then my other question is about the skate park and where the dollar amount came from, and are we actually at the point where we can do that, or do we need to still hire consultants to design it? And I don't know, just that. So those are the questions that I have.
I pulled the skate park figures from the draft capital budget, so capital improvement plan. So I'll defer to Chris for that one.
Yeah, and that number came from the park master plan. So that's from the
Okay.
consultant on his kind of estimated cost.
Okay.
So it's probably a decent working number. It's a good budget number that we could give to the consultant to look at. We did include in the capital improvement plan that we'll be looking at with the Public Works Committee tomorrow. Our recommendation is that we do put some money in a budget for a feasibility study. We actually could apply for a grant through State Parks and Rec. They like funding those types of feasibility studies, especially if there's a source for constructing the project. But a feasibility study, I don't think we're ready to take on the construction of the streetscape or the skate park replacement. I don't think we're far enough along on location, elements to have in it, the size of it. There's a lot of unknowns I think that we need to talk about still. Not to mention just, the design in and of itself takes some effort and some time and some money to do that. So my recommendation, and plus we've got a ton of other projects going on right now, but to do a feasibility study this next fiscal year, starting July 2022, do the feasibility study and then put us in a really good position to go into construction fiscal year 23-24. We could either apply for a State Parks and Rec grant with those, or again, if we wanted to earmark some of the ARPA funds for that, that'd be possible. If we wanted to apply for the timeline for any of these ARPA funds is you've got to have it dedicated by 2024 and you've got to have it spent by 2026. So we have a little bit of time. We could apply for the Benton County funding to help with the skate park. And if we get it, that's great. We can use part of that to offset or to match any requests that we made to the state Parks and Rec. So it's definitely an option for us. And again, it's a project that's been highly identified as a priority for, or within the very recently updated park master plan. So,
So it seems that Councilor Kazi, I think you and I and Mayor Jones are in favor of that line of thinking, or maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'll just add real quick. I think that there's going to be a lot more sources of funding for something like a skate park than for the infrastructure like a sewer pipes. We've already proven that we haven't been able to replace these pipes for a very long time because there's just no funding available. Whereas skate parks, those kind of recreational things, I think there's gonna be a lot more grant opportunities or from foundations or at this time public funds, but I'm less concerned about trying to be able to find that funding myself.
I think that's going to be a very important point to demonstrate in order to sell this idea, because I sort of view these ARPA funds as kind of a once in a lifetime windfall, and along with other funding sources that have been made available by the federal government. So, and we have a community that is very much interested in improvements to the parks. So I would just be prepared.
And my other last response on that topic would be that, in that survey, we were asking about parks specifically. We weren't asking about everything else in the community. And so, of course, that was the response when we're gonna work on our parks because that's all we were asking about. But
that's very true. But as Councillor Lehman pointed out, if you put sewers and parks on the same survey, what do you think people are going to pick?
Yep, I know. That's why we're here. That's why we're in this situation.
I know what I would pick. give me a flush and toilet any day.
That's right.
So,
Okay.
So just a little bit of direction, I guess, just to bring this back to the council, or what we're bringing to the council for the funds that have been made available and we've been encouraged to apply for from Benton County. is there a prioritization there on what to apply for? Because I don't think we can just ask for the moon and back, right? So what would be the priority recommendation from this committee on what we should ask Benton County for money to support?
We haven't talked much other than what the mayor brought up about affordable housing and assistance to folks. I think there needs to be more conversation, and I may read the room wrong with the council, but I think we're all very concerned about affordable housing. We're not necessarily sure what the definition is or how do you provide it, but if there's any measures that we can take to address that fit within this funding, I'm in favor of that. They're certainly looking at it, learning more about it.
Sure. You know, I do just because it's timely, the Mill Pond crossing modification was approved last night by the Planning Commission. So it's got the townhomes in there. Habitat for Humanity came and testified in favor of that project and stated they're actively working with the developer, with Levi, to find partnerships that they can help not only screen future homeowners to make sure that these don't get bought up by investors that are just looking to buy,
Right.
Cheap investment property, but that they're going to be sold to homeowners. And there may be an opportunity there, again, the timeliness of it, there may be an opportunity there to also partner with Habitat for Humanity for some down payment assistance funding. That way that, the money would be given to Habitat for Humanity that could then use the funds for down payment assistance for a program that they entered into. And it wouldn't necessarily have to be limited to those homes. It could go to Habitat to help with any down payment assistance within Philomath, including the homes there in Mill Pond that are, targeted for kind of that middle and, entry level, middle, mid income level household. So I can see something like that materializing fairly quickly, I guess, is what I'm saying. The timeliness of it doesn't sound like it's take a long time to set something like that up.
Councilor Kasi, did you have a thought?
Yeah, I just wanted to express my support for the idea of Mayor Jones' idea of a revolving down payment assistance program. I think that's a great idea and should be doable. But I agree. I think it would be highly appropriate to work with Habitat for Humanity rather than trying to stand up something on our own.
Mhm.
Just a side note, Mr. Miller stated last night that he has a waiting list of 160 families who are ready to move into homes, of
Wow.
which he's building 130. So
Thank you for that. I didn't listen to the meeting, so that's really helpful. Thank you.
yeah, it was fascinating, literally.
So Chris, do you have the direction you need, or you need something more specific?
Yeah, I think for the council, I've heard down payment assistance. We talked, I guess, initially about the small business assistance. And then I've heard skate park funding. The critical infrastructure, I think that'll be more of the city's portion. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But as far as Benton County funds, those are kind of the three I'm hearing of what we talked about. So I can prepare those in a memo and say, here's three considerations from the finance admin committee, and then have a full council discussion about, I think you want to narrow it down to one of those or maybe two and see what we can do on the ask.
And the deadline for that application's pretty early in March, isn't it? Or
March 11th.
11th, yeah. So is that gonna, when's our meeting in March?
Yeah, it's up to the 14th. Yeah, good catch.
So
Well, we could prepare, well, this is all really about taking to the budget committee. So maybe that memo gets written tonight or tomorrow morning and we get it out to the budget committee for their meeting on Monday, the 28th.
it would be good, yeah. I mean, we're talking about ARPA funds and this certainly plays into it. So yeah,
Okay.
let's do
It's
it.
a little bit of a side conversation, but I think it's an important one to have, especially if we can get an application in on time.
Well, yeah, especially for the committee, budget committee.
I will just voice, out of the three options that we talked about, my personal priorities would be the affordable housing initiative, and then the skate park, and then the small business support. But
That
that's
would
just
be mine too.
Counselor Causey, is that consensus?
I think that's reasonable, I guess. How would you apply for, would you describe all three in the application or?
I think I'd just list them that way in the memo to the budget committee and then get weigh in from the budget committee on how to proceed. But it might help them to have not necessarily a ranking, but kind of priority 1, priority 2, priority 3 kind of thing.
Okay.
So
Okay.
1, 2, 3, got it. Okay,
Very good. All right.
so
One final question regarding the small business assistance. Even if we were not to receive funding from the county, I believe we do have money in our budget to provide some assistance, do we not? Or no? Or is it only social service?
yeah, it's social service funding. We provided some additional funds in there that were completely discretionary, but I think they were geared more towards like, like if the dance team at the school came and asked for money to help go to state or something like that, it was kind of smaller. I think it was intended for smaller chunks of money to go towards nonprofit organizations and clubs and that sort of bit. But it wouldn't, there's nothing there that would preclude a business for asking for money, but kind of sets a little bit of a dangerous precedence. So,
Yeah, okay, thank you.
yeah.
Okay. So back to what the city is going to get.
Yeah, back to what the city is going to get. So that kind of gets into the replace lost public sector revenue, which I talked about at the very beginning. I think, this is the avenue the city, I would recommend the city go down to get the funding, get it in our account. The report back to the federal government is going to be, we use the funding to replace lost public sector revenue, period. End of discussion. For a population of less than 6,000 people, our ARPA funds received were less than $5 million. We qualify, this is kind of like the standard deduction on your income tax, right? So there's really not a whole lot to add there. Then to me, that's the most appropriate way to get these funds to the city, not have to do a lot of accounting. We don't have to report what projects we spent them on. We don't have to comply with any of the requirements. We basically just say it's replacement of income and go from there. So does that make sense to everybody on kind of how that works?
It does. Is there any downside to taking that approach at all?
No.
Okay, then it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, there's really not, and that I can think of. Mike, I don't know. Mike went through this at Newport, I think, before he came over here. And I think you guys did the deduction, the standard income loss as well, right?
Yes, we did. We did the same thing. Makes it life easier.
There's a formula for larger cities. There's a formula that they've come up to calculate your lost revenue. And it's got several different variables that go into it, and it's pretty complicated. But then the standard's like, if it's less than $5 million, you don't have to do the formula. You just get the money and just use the money. Use the money. Go spend it. Pump money into the economy, right? So it's kind of works. It works nicely to our favor.
Okay.
David,
Alrighty.
we did, Newport did go through that long calculation, Chris. I don't know if I told you. In reality, we only lost about 1.5 million in revenue, but the formula said it was 3.5. So
Let's do that.
yeah, you only get the
Yeah, I
one
guess
point. You only
3.5.
get what you're going to get. So it was interesting.
Yeah, and again, we're capped at that 1.25 million is the estimate that we'll be getting. So we don't get any more if we go through the calculation. It's just we got the standard, and so we're less than that 5 million. So that's what we get. So not a whole lot more to say there. The second to last point was provide premium pay for essential workers. As much as my employees would love to hear that everybody's getting bonuses for having worked through the pandemic, we're not an agency that went up and beyond, I think, our normal kind of workload. Was it stressful? Yeah, it was stressful for everybody, right? Not just public sector employees. We didn't have people in healthcare. We didn't, our officers were probably the closest thing we had. people working for the court, people working utility payments and whatnot, our public works employees that were out, but really not substantially different than their situation was pre-pandemic. And I can point to specifics, but really, I just don't think for the city of Philomath, I would not advocate for premium pay for employees. I think we're happy to have the jobs that we have, to work for the city, to have the benefits that we have. And I just don't think that would be an appropriate use for these ARPA funds when there's so many other needs. So I'm making an executive decision on that one and just say, I just don't think we should use the funds for employee salaries. Unless you're going to twist my arm in another direction, that's kind of where I'm at.
I concur with your logic.
Okay. And then the last one is investment in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. I list out the projects that we've been talking about here: 11th Street, 16th Street, and then 17th, 18th are the big sewer projects that are included. There's some water projects in there as well. Councilor Causey brings up a good point on the park infrastructure and the skate park. I'm not opposed to mixing some funds in there if that seems like an appropriate, balance of where the funds are going towards. Again, you're in a little disadvantage of not having the capital improvement plan from last year in front of you, but there's a list of projects that we just never have funding to do. Right now, our biggest problem is there's a list of projects we don't have the time to do because we're working on other projects. So it's a good problem to have funds available and just not time available to do the projects. But again, for a community our size, we have a very aggressive capital improvement plan. Mike even said that today. We sat down with Kevin and Gary and we're going through the capital improvement plan. And we got back in the car and that's the first he said, man, that's a pretty aggressive capital improvement plan. I said, yeah, we've got the funds. We need to spend the funds and do the projects. They're identified as needed projects. We need to be spending the money and doing them. But this money obviously would go a long ways towards getting those projects done, quicker, maybe year 2 or 3 instead of year 5 or year 7, right? So it would speed up the availability of funds so we can continue to do a project every year for the next 2 or 3 years, which is what's currently in the capital improvement plan. So again, wherever you want to give me some direction here, I'm happy to present that to the budget committee next week as well.
Councilor Causey?
Yes, just a comment and a question. The upsizing of the line on North 11th Street is one of my pet peeves. This is not a needed project. It's a recommended project if the street is torn up conveniently. But it's a project that would be done to accommodate future development. And I'm not opposed to future development, but I think if the developers come in, they ought to pay for it. And if the street needs to get torn up again, so be it. I think the city has more important things to invest $165,000 in than an upsizing that's not really needed. And I know that Chris and I kind of agree to disagree on this one. I do have a question about the 17th and 18th Street. I wonder if there's a breakdown between those two streets and what's involved there. I know they're combined on the capital improvement plan, but
yeah, I'm not privy to the specifications on the distinction between the two. There's sewer line in both of those that was installed at the same time. It needs to be replaced. We could break those out between 17th and 18th if we needed to, but I've always just seen them combined. That's the way they've come to me from Kevin at Public Works. I will say, I think you get some benefit in doing both of them at the same time, not only in construction costs, but also in improving the overall system. I think if you do 17th and not 18th, you kind of fixed half a problem, but you still have a problem. So the intent would be to bring that whole system of sewer lines up to today's standard and replace and get rid of a lot of the infill and infiltration we get from that area of town.
But that could be said of the entire system.
Well, this area has been identified because of the amount of infill infiltration we have there, because it's significantly worse there. And in fact, if Kevin was here, he would tell you he would prefer to do 7th and 18th Street tomorrow and leave everything else till future years. We've pushed 16th Street ahead. Well, the capital improvement plan has 16th, 17th, and 18th all being done next fiscal, not this fiscal year, but next fiscal year. So those 3 projects we're hoping to send all out to bid at the same time. So priority wise, I think we have more problems with the sewer line at 17th and 18th Street, or the sewer lines at 17th and 18th than we do at 16th. 16th Street is more a matter of the road is getting improved, and unlike Councilor Cos, it likes to tear up brand new roads. My preference would be to replace the water lines first and then put the new road over top and not have to dig back through it again.
I didn't hear her say that quite that way.
I was giving a little bit of a hard time.
Well,
but,
I'm not gonna rip it up. The developer is gonna rip it up. They have to patch it. That's their problem.
Yeah, I think the argument would be that a patch is never as good as a solid all the way across. So you want to preserve that solid surface as long as you can, keep that intact as much as you can. But no, duly noted. 16th Street is the replacement of that line and the extension, right? So no matter what, you're having to extend that line anyway. It kind of makes sense to go ahead and replace what you're doing while you're in there and the trench is open. So, but if not for the 16th Street project, yeah, the point is we wouldn't be replacing that 16th Street sewer line. We're doing it because we're already there, we're already digging, we've already got a trench going, we've got to extend it anyway. That seems like the most appropriate and cost-effective time to replace that older pipe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that concrete pipe is, after the 52 era pipe, concrete would be the next one, right? And then you go to the PVC or whatever it is.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Just to point out, 11th Street is PVC, not concrete.
Yeah, there you
Yes.
go.
Be perfectly transparent.
You're priming me for a conversation next month, aren't you? Yeah, if we wanted to save some money, that'd be a spot we could do it.
Well, if I'm looking at those 3, I would come down on Councilor Kazi's side. I think the 16th and 17th and 18th Street are the ones that are what especially the 52 era pipe. I'm just kind of latched onto that idea that that's the most critical. And even though it might be a drop in the bucket, I mean, we got to get moving on it. And maybe there's some, I'm not sure, but within that, that description, 52 era, maybe there's some parts that are worse than other parts that absolutely need to be fixed before something else.
Well, so yeah, so Kevin's prioritized, so 17th and 18th are those priority projects for the 52 hour pipe.
Okay.
There's 52 hour pipe up on Pioneer and 11th Street, so that is part of the 11th Street project. Part of replacing that sewer line is extending down to Pioneer and taking care of that section of it as well. But there's other priorities, as Councilor Causey knows, there's about $6 million worth of pipe out there. And I believe I've seen the list from Kevin where he's prioritized those in the past. I'd have to dig that up a little bit because we know we're just gonna have to chip away at it. I think one point we were looking at a large bond measure, something that would do all of it at once, and that just didn't seem practical, too expensive for everybody. And so we know we're gonna have to chip away at it a little bit of a time. I do think it's appropriate to say we've, last year we were able to transfer $450,000 from the sewer fund into our land building equipment fund. That's the largest transfer we've made maybe ever, short of just before doing the sewer treatment expansion project. And I've talked to Mike about that. We'd like to keep that number at that 450 and continue to put, if you'll remember, the council several years ago made a goal to do $200,000 a year and start putting money towards future projects in the sewer line. And over the years, as more homes have come in and more developments come in, we've been able to slowly increase that transfer. And now we're up to $450,000. which means, you know, $1 million project you can do every 2 to 3 years now. Whereas opposed, you know, before at $200,000 a year, it was every 5 years. So, you know, being able to have the rates where they're at to be able to put enough money, you know, that significant amount of money towards future projects, we're going to start chipping away at this 1952 era pipe now on a, you know, every couple year basis. We'll be able to do $1 million at a time of this pipe. So I really do feel like the engine's starting down the tracks, and we're really building that momentum on getting this taken care of. And again, once the 52 era pipe's done, then it's the, you know, the 56 era pipe, and it'll continue to build. So we're in a good spot with sewer. This, you know, using the funds here would really help just, you know, really push that locomotive and get it going over the next 2 to 3 years.
Okay, so to try to kind of wrap up this discussion, or what are we, so direction to the city manager on sewer pipes, water sewer.
Personally, I'm okay with the list of projects as stated. I'm kind of in line with Chris. After seeing how the upgraded pipes worked for the apartment complexes on Highway 34, I'm spacing off on the name, Boulevard Apartments. That seems like upsizing just makes sense for future growth. Like, it doesn't, personally, I don't think that it makes a lot of sense to leave in the old stuff when we're upgrading the whole thing. Especially, it seems like 165 grand is minimal compared to the overall project costs. And then we can also get reimbursed by future development, right? If we do a reimbursement district.
We could set up a reimbursement district, yes.
Which is what Boulevard did. So I would be in support of that myself. If it makes sense, the amount of time involved would recover the cost. But anyhow, I'm okay with the projects as listed.
So recovering costs, that's, if that's possible, then doesn't that sort of help Councilor Causey that the city might have to pay for it up front, but we get money back from the developer, so we still get to proverbially stick it to them.
No, I still don't like the idea. Sorry.
Yeah, and and honestly, on that point, I'm kind of with Councilor Causey. I wouldn't go into that thinking that you're going to get reimbursed. It's capped at 15 years.
Mhm.
You got one property owner that owns that one piece of property up north. I guess you've got a second property owner that owns a small, like 3 lots there that you can fit duplexes or triplexes on. But I wouldn't go into it thinking you're going to get that money back. I think you go into it knowing it's an investment that you don't have to tear up the road in the future. Is it going to be cheaper to do in the future than today? Probably not. It's only going to get more expensive. So I think you do it because you're there already. You've already paid for the mobility costs. You're on site. That's going to be the least expensive time to do it if you're going to do it. But is an expense to the city as opposed to a future developer at some point coming in and taking care of that and tearing your road up. But
then again, just the other side of the argument is you're not going to get the money in 15 years is the maximum. So why, you know, if we're not going to have to tear up the road for 15 years, let's leave it in. Tear it up after the 15 years. So I don't know. I'm back to Ruth, to Councilor Causey's side.
well, it's a 100-year-old pipe, so it may be much longer than 15 years before you have to get in there and tear it up. 100 years, we'll all be gone by then.
Am I incorrect in thinking that there could well be additional federal monies available for infrastructure projects?
Yeah, so the big bill got passed, or is looking to get passed. I guess they're sorting out the administrative, all the details and the hoops we're gonna have to jump through. We're expecting that funds are gonna get handed down from the feds to the state, and that Business Oregon more than likely will have access to those, and we'll go through their infrastructure finance authority to apply for loans first, grants second. My concern on that is if they continue the pattern, the grants are going to be available to lower income communities or communities that have immediate need or they're non-compliant. And the city of Philoma is going to be kind of stuck sitting there saying, what about us? and it was saying, nope, you don't have any problems and your median household income is too high, you don't qualify for any grants. So we could get the loan, but I think the money will come down, but I don't think that we're gonna be in the first in line to receive any of those funds. So if it comes, great. I don't wanna budget accordingly. I don't wanna plan for it and lean on that as an expectation, but if it comes, terrific.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I would support the 17th and 18th Street project. The other two I'm not quite as strong on, but I would like to see some parks money in there.
So we agree on the 17th and 18th.
Yeah, just because I'm so flexible.
But then again, if we can get parks money through the Benton County conduit.
Well, you mentioned this, the skate park. Where are my trails?
Oh, your trails, yeah. They're happy trails.
Those
Happy trails.
were a higher priority than the skate park.
That's right. I'm remiss, Councilor Kazi. Thanks for reminding.
Anytime.
So
Well.
what would you like in the memo to the budget committee? I can just include the information I've included here and we can rehash this conversation, I guess, at the committee level. But if you want to provide some additional direction, I'm happy to provide that in the memo as well.
Well, I think in all seriousness, the mayor made an important point about the availability of funds for replacing the sewer infrastructure. But I think it would also be worth acknowledging the public's interest in parks and the possible use of these funds for parks.
So if I added, in addition to sewer, if I added a section, maybe just under this, that said, in addition to sewer projects, an area where the city has not spent a lot of money on infrastructure is on our park infrastructure. We've heavily relied on, waiting for a development to come in to provide us with that. I don't know, that's wholly fair to say though. 11th, the park, Flossie Overman Park, the city was very proactive in pursuing grant funding and putting a park up there. I think we've been very proactive with the Paul J. Cochran Veterans Memorial Park. That's been a very, progressive push to get another park on that north end of town and identify that lot and apply for a grant, which we received. Looks like we're going to get $50,000 from the state for the memorial portion of that park. So I think the city's done a good job, but we haven't done a lot with trails. We're right. So I'll include a section under here about needed trails and earmarking some funding to go towards the park system.
Yeah, quite frankly, I was disappointed to see that there was no additional funding in the capital improvement plan for trails. There's just $3,000. Like you've got $1 million plus worth of trails proposed. So
Yeah, and that was,
I was also going to mention that the Leppin development is also going to install a pretty substantial trail from the RV park into town, correct, Chris?
they will. It'll connect them to the sidewalk and then the sidewalk down through. Not a separate trail, but it's on their private property, it's a trail, and then it connects into the public street system.
And can't we, getting grants for the trail system and connectivity, could we apply for grants there too?
Yeah, there's some newer grants that are specific for trails that don't follow streets. It's a grant that we were looking to apply for in conjunction with development of the Lowther property. That's kind of stalled out a little bit. There's another small trail that kind of goes from the public works yard up to the school or kind of connects into the school. We've looked at that, but we don't own it. The school owns the property. So there's some funding opportunities there. But obviously if you've got, if you have ARPA funds coming down and that's where the council wants to prioritize them, then
Right.
it adds to, I think if nothing else, it's a nice match for any additional funds that you would be applying for grant money.
Well, I'm not opposed to some of the money being allocated to parks, but I'm thinking if there's another mechanism for funding, if we put energy into looking for grants for that particular purpose, I'd like to see that happen too. To help bolster that effort, because as Councilor Kazi says, the public has weighed in and these are the two things that they really want. So to demonstrate good faith, if you will, that we're pursuing that with whatever opportunities seems to make sense. Councilor Kazi?
May I ask that the 3 projects listed here that the order be reversed, so you have the most urgent need first, and the last one can be in faded type, maybe.
You can ask. The way that they're listed now is based on, time frame. I'm still working under the impression that the council is actively looking at North 11th Street now, and then engineering of 16th, 17th, 18th Street for this next fiscal year, and then construction the year after. So I kind of have them set up time frame wise, but if you want to set them up priority wise, I'm fine with that. I can reverse.
Thank you. You're so kind.
I can also be flexible.
That's good to know. When the time comes, I expect that. We'll see.
Okay, so I'll reverse the order. I'll add language in about money for parks. I'll add, trails. I'll add the skate park as kind of possibilities to kind of talk through. And really, we have some time. I think the big push right now is just feeling like the budget committee and the council have had opportunity to talk about how are we going to use these funds. If we're going to use them for social service stuff, we should do that now rather than later, because the need is now and it may not be as great 3 or 4 years from now. If we're going to identify them for infrastructure, I don't know that we need to say 300,000 for this park project and 300,000 for this sewer project. If we know it's for infrastructure and we know that it's going to be for sewer and for park, I don't know that we need to get a whole lot more specific than that with the budget committee, especially Monday night's meeting. I think it's just important to have that conversation. And again, running this by you first has been helpful for me to kind of help organize what that memo to the budget committee is going to look like. Because I don't want to come there with a full script of here's what I'm recommending we do. I want to have some give and take on what is it you'd like to do, but I do think it's helpful as much as you can, as we've already kind of hashed this out tonight. I'd hate for the conversation to get eaten up, 90% of it we just talk about why we should or shouldn't fund nonprofit organizations, right? I just think that we'll get lost there in the importance of the infrastructure and the intent of giving these funds to cities. It's not to, again, be a clearinghouse and distribute all of it out to everybody else in the community. There's other venues that they can go through to get the funds from the federal government besides the city, so.
Okay. All righty. So we're 15 minutes left if we want to break at 5, which is always a good thing to stay within our time frame. The non-represented employee COLAs. Pretty straightforward, I think. We're wanting to match what the 2 unions have agreed to for this coming term. Is there anything more to add to that, Chris? Or from the councilors?
No, there's nothing more to add. So it's pretty much what you see.
Okay. And we've typically done this. Councilor Kazi.
I think I asked how many positions were involved.
That I don't have an answer for. I'm going to do that as soon as we're done with this meeting, and I'll send it out to the committee. And you also wanted to know what the average salary was. So
Yes.
I'll send those out. Unless, Chris, maybe he has those numbers.
I'll probably do it really quick. you've got management team, and then you've got court and payroll and utility and city recorder and a part-time permit clerk. So you're talking 11 individuals.
Okay.
And this has been done continually for,
Since I've been here and beyond. Yeah, but
Mhm.
you know, the argument is you don't want your spread to get out of whack. And I always make the argument, if the cost of living adjustment is truly a cost of living adjustment, these aren't bonuses, these aren't, you know, this is really to reflect the cost of living, then that cost of living adjustment affects everybody. And so whether you're represented by a union or not represented by a union, you know, it seems fair to treat the non-represented employees similar to the represented employees. So that's traditionally been the case. I will just add, I don't know if it made in the memo, we do go out for collective bargaining with the unions again next year. And it'll be interesting, knowing again with inflation this year, it's always interesting to go into budget union negotiations when inflation's going through the roof. Not something I've had to do before. So it'll be interesting to see what the union comes in with an ask for cost of living adjustment, looking out for the next year, 2 years, 3 years. We've talked in the past about tying that to an index of some sort. But again, we'll need to have that discussion because again, you get one big year and you're talking about a 7% rate increase, cost of living adjustment from one year to the next. You know, where you could have negotiated a 2 or a 3% for multiple years, that can catch up to you real quick on a, you know, when you got a volatile cost of living with inflation going. So that'll be an interesting conversation when we get to that point.
So what I'd like to request, because if I remember properly, several years ago, before when this contract was done, there was some discussion by council that we would have liked to have had more information ahead of time, not just have it after it was all said and done. So I would request that we keep that in mind for this coming round, that through the FNA or through council directly, I would appreciate some input from staff on that.
Yep, and we'll talk through that.
Kazi?
Absolutely.
Okay. Councilor Kazi?
and this may be a rhetorical question, but why would you not use the same inflationary increase that you applied to your utility and other rates? That's the toss-up. Yes,
say
you
it
have
was-
a doctorate in economy.
You said it was rhetorical, so we don't need to have an answer.
No, I think there is a fair answer to that. The fair answer is that when you're looking at a utility rate, some of that is personnel expense, but some of it is material expense. We try to capture material expense with the engineers news review, the ENR index. And so we adjust our STCs every year based on that index. We adjust our income based on the consumer price index. So different indexes are going to try to capture different aspects of change, and they're going to reflect that accordingly. So, you know, when you're looking at employee salaries versus utility rates, it is a little different just on what you're trying to measure, because different things inflate or deflate at different levels.
That's actually a good answer, Chris.
Thanks.
I'm going to give you extra credit for that. Although I have to point out it's Engineering News Record, not Engineering News Review.
Thank you.
Mm.
Anytime.
I'm live in a world of acronyms. It's ENR to me. So
It is. I move the Finance and Administration Committee recommended 3% cost of living adjustment effective July 1, 2022 for non-represented employees.
Second. So motion by Councilor Kazi, seconded by Councilor Lowe. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We're all in favor. Thank you. And the last thing we have is our social service funding policy, which I understand the council really wanted to go to the inclusivity committee first so they could take a look at it and give us recommendations. I'm not aware of anything back yet. And maybe I'm wrong in my timeline, but I thought that's where we were.
Mayor Jones serves with that committee, so maybe he can respond, but I just finished up the minutes for there, and they've got a meeting tonight, actually. They're meeting at 5:30 tonight, and this is on the agenda for tonight. They were asked, they talked about the last meeting, and they had a consensus to provide information to staff between their last meeting and tonight on specific ideas, wording, et cetera, for changes. And then they were going to review all of that tonight. I didn't receive any comments from anybody on the committee. And so I'm not sure what tonight's discussion is going to be about because nothing was submitted to me. So.
Can I
Steve.
pop in?
Sure.
I do know that Christopher McMorrin has made some suggestions
Oh, did he? Okay.
just about an hour ago.
Okay. I stand corrected. An hour ago, I received some comments.
So, Chris, in order for the budget committee and everything, are we still looking at the funding? Well, we'll get what we get from the inclusivity committee. Are we still looking to our committee to make a recommendation in order to get into the budget proceedings? Is that the way it goes?
Well, this is less about how the budget, this was more about what's the process that the council wants to follow to distribute those funds,
Okay.
to advertise that they're available. But I think the concern that was raised was specific to how are organizations selected
Mhm.
or how are they ranked, I guess, if they were to rank on who gets funds and who doesn't get funds. What are the standards that we would like them to have in place as a board or an agency and those types of things. So that's coming off of the conversation from last month with the inclusivity committee. Those were the types of things they were interested in. I believe that's what we heard from members of the council when this was first asked to be reviewed and looked at by the committee.
And I think too, it wasn't unanimous, but I think there was discussion on the council about should the reviews of the applications be done by this committee or should they just go straight to the city council? And so I'm not sure if this committee should weigh in on that or we just bring that question back to the council. So not.
Yeah, I think it's a fair, I think if that got tied into any type of recommendation, that would be more than appropriate. It was discussed.
Okay. And then another question I have, we've allocated us 35% of the state revenue sharing funds for as long as I've known. I don't know if we want to have any discussion about more or less of that as a percentage. I think it might be worth. I'm not sure if there's enough time now. And Councillor Jones, Mayor Jones, sorry, you were a councillor, you're a mayor now, sorry.
It's all good. Yeah, on the percentage, it seems like it's been working for us. I don't see any real strong reason for us to increase it or decrease it personally. I haven't heard from organizations that they're not getting more funding, that they expect more. The two things that I would suggest that we actually modify the policy, that would be to one, instead of eligible organizations submitting requests to the F&A committee, alternatively, that the city actually release an RFP and have the announcement be out for 5-6 weeks.
Okay.
That eligible organizations can then submit proposals for. But I think that the two key things are that we put out an RFP that anybody can reply to or submit applications to, and that we have it out for a specific period of time, whatever that time is appropriate.
Makes a lot of sense. But we would still.
But I think
Sorry.
it should come back to the F&A committee that we recommend to council personally.
Okay, that makes sense. Would we still keep it at the 501c3 level and for the benefit of the Philomath residents? I would assume.
I would.
Could I
Yes,
maybe
City
point
Recorder.
out, yes, could I maybe point out that one of the, last year, one of the things that happened was we had a member of the finance committee who had to declare basically a conflict, and that was Matt
Right.
Lehman.
Right.
And that created a problem with the committee making a full recommendation. We don't really have that problem this year. So,
It's true, but having the RFP from the council would forestall anything like that in the future, which would be good. I think, and then individual counselors, if we're, well, yeah, because we vote on it. If somebody has to recuse himself in a particular agency, they can do that at the meeting. Right. Mayor Jones, I like what you're saying. I agree with you. Councilor Kazi?
I agree as well.
So,
Chris, do
think
you have any
time-
input on, Chris, do you have an input on how long such an RFP should be out in the community? And
No, I don't really have any additional insight other what kind of seems reasonable. I think that, 4 to 6 weeks is pretty reasonable. Seems like plenty of time. You go any longer than that seems excessive. And so I think, again, as long as you know when it's going to happen, you can work the calendar backwards and get those out. I think a lot of agencies are pretty busy at the end of the year looking for donations and doing that. So I guess any recommendation would be we kind of avoid that November, December timeframe because it's busy and it's a horrible time to be asking for money because they're just busy. But well, horrible in that it'd be one more place they'd have to go during that busy season to request funding when they're already pretty busy doing that. So as long as you stay away from that on the cycle and when it happens, I think you're fine. And if, again, we're talking 4 to 6 weeks, I don't see that being a problem. It's not going to push us back into the holiday season.
and typically, I think once the budget's affirmed for the next year, in the past, well, Joan would tell us within a month or so, like July or August, start that process.
Right.
So maybe. Now, I do have a question too, because in addition to this, we have the low income assistance monies that we allocate from the water utility budget to We Care, additionally We Care and
Brandon Moses.
Moses, yeah. So but that's not strictly part of this policy, is it? If it is, maybe you should mention it, but they always get combined together. It's a little confusing, I think.
Yeah, and we can separate those out. They really are two different programs.
Yeah.
I think we've just combined them onto one memo in the past for convenience, but they really should be looked at separately. And that would definitely cut down on some confusion.
I would advocate for that. Yeah. All righty. Well, I think you got what you need. Anybody
Yeah, on
else
this
want to say
topic, we'll just wait to see what the inclusivity committee is able to talk about tonight. Then we'll just bring that back to this committee for a future meeting.
Okay, great. Yeah, if you could let them know, we're eager to see what to incorporate their ideas.
timeline, we're going to have the inclusivity committee report back, and then this committee will meet again in March and then approve what they said or make a recommendation that the council do. Is that what we're thinking?
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Very good. Anybody have anything else they'd like to say?
I appreciate you all.
And as we do you. So
Have a nice evening. Stay warm.
thank you very much. You can have the last word and say adjourn.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Thanks all. Bye.